Hi, I'm William Mills at FinovateEurope, and I'm joined by Dave Birch, who's Global Ambassador with Consult Hyperion. How are you doing today, Dave?
Great, thank you for having me.
Appreciate you joining us. My first question, you're an author, an advisor, and commentator on digital financial services, as well as a Global Ambassador for Consult Hyperion. Tell us about your work.
Well, Consult Hyperion is a specialist electronic transactions consultancy. So we advise some of the larger players in the market, the big payment schemes, big banks, big transit operators, on how to take advantage of new technology for secure transactions in that space. So, for example, you may have noticed when you came to London, you don't need a transit card anymore. You can just use your Apple Pay or your contactless card to ride the subway. Well, that's the kind of project that we worked on.
Interesting, interesting. Well, in addition to all of that work, you recently wrote a book called Before Babylon, Beyond Bitcoin, From Money We Understand to Money That Understands Us. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, I thought that a lot of the stuff that you hear about things like Bitcoin and the various new payment mechanisms lack some context. They lack some historical perspective. And people don't understand kind of why money works the way it does. And so I thought I'd try and write something which kind of would allow us to look forward, by understanding that past. And I think there's lots of lessons you can draw. I mean, the key underlying concept, I guess, is that the way money works now isn't really a law of nature. It's a temporary set of institutional arrangements. And so if you're trying to imagine what money will be like in the future, you have to kind of think a bit harder from first principles. And I hope I did that in a reasonably educational, reasonably entertaining way.
Can we anticipate any other books in your future?
Well, I'm working on another book at the moment. I'll tell you, it's nothing. I'm working on a book called Will Robots Need Passports? Which is about digital identity.
Right.
And when people talk about the identity problems, identity fraud, we tend to think about people. But of course, in the interconnected future, everything will need an identity. People draw these clouds on the whiteboard.
Right.
Well, I'll give your car permission to park in my garage.
Right.
Well, how do I know it's your car? How does your car know it's me? How does my garage know that I gave permission to your car? So we have to think more clearly about what identity is going to be in the future as well. And I thought that would be an interesting topic for a book.
So will robots need passports?
Yes, they will.
And
the reason that they will is because they will need authorization to do things. And we need a kind of standardized way of issuing and understanding these kind of things, a bit like passports. But everything will need them. You, me, robots, bots, everything that wants to interact. Yeah, they will.
Until that time comes, what things can people be thinking of in terms of improving their digital identity?
Look, right now, digital identity is a sort of generic term that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I think one of the first things we have to do is develop a common model, a framework of what digital identity actually is. I happen to think some of our work in that space is at the leading edge of that. I think that our models, it's founded on a thing we call 3D ID, 3-domain identity. I think those models provide management and technologists with a clearer way of thinking about digital identity. That's the first starting point. And then, of course, we need people to start developing the infrastructure. And I'm very biased about that. I think there are lots of reasons why it should be the banks, actually, that are doing something in that space. We've seen in some areas the government try it, in other areas banks, consortia, big internet companies. I think there are reasons for thinking banks should do it.
Or even telecommunications companies.
Well, yes, but see, the thing is the banks already have to do all of the know your customer, AML, that kind of stuff. And other people could run their businesses more efficiently if they could piggyback on that, and the banks could turn it from being a cost center into a line of business. So yes, you're absolutely right. There are lots of different people that could do it. My bias is I think maybe banks should take it seriously as a business.
Well, in closing, what has caught your attention the most here at FinovateEurope?
The things caught my attention the most were the presentations from Amazon and Facebook, because I think we bandy around the term challenger, meaning sort of the new banks in that space. But I can't help feeling that the people who are going to be really disruptive are not people who are starting another bank. it's when people like Facebook and Amazon start to move into financial services, not because they have a ton of money, but because they have a ton of data, and that's the defining kind of resource that says how things are going to work in the future, not just for financial services, but for everything. So when you're trying to think about what disruption looks like in this space, I think it's important to listen to guys like that, and I thought they both made, very good, clear presentations, which I liked very much.
Fantastic. Well, we really appreciate your time. This is William Mills with Dave Birch at Finovate Europe.